Hello and welcome back to Pylon podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brett Landmeyer.
And I'm Kevin Brigham.
Today, we got another special episode planned for you today. It's going to be our last summer episode, so pretty soon, expect more week to week previews and recaps. Today, we're going to be going over kind of the future of college football, along with recent news and college game day predictions. So, should be a good one we got for you today. Kevin, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just keep watching. We appreciate everybody that's been watching and commenting and everything and following on social. So keep doing that, and get excited because with about a month out till the season, we'll be doing a lot of preseason content, getting ready for Week 1.
Yeah, and exciting time to be a Cubs fan there, right?
Oh yeah, 36 runs in 2 games against Cincy. Not a bad time.
Love to see it. All right. Yeah, we're just going to get right into some recent news that's going on. Iowa State's quarterback Hunter Deckers just got, um, what's the word, punished for, or is going to be punished for some gambling issues he's had, with one being underage and two being the quarterback at Iowa State and betting on Iowa State games as well. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious to see what the punishment is going to be. Um, because I mean, as you said, he's technically underage too. But like the big thing, obviously, is that he's the quarterback at Iowa State, so he shouldn't be betting on any game. Let alone, I'm pretty sure it was an Iowa State game, if I'm not mistaken.
you're not mistaken.
Which uh, throws in the idea that he may have been like throwing it or whatever, um, which is a whole nother bag of issues in itself. But I feel like there's more and more things that keep coming out about players betting. Like I feel like once a week, at least in the NFL, there's another player that's suspended for betting or fined.
Yeah, I was thinking because if we look at the NFL suspensions, Calvin Ridley got a full year, and then Jameson Williams with the Lions got 6 games. So I don't know what the correlation is between the college and NFL for suspensions, but I'm assuming it's gonna be multiple games for sure, if not the whole season.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be the whole season. And I can't remember, is Decker senior? What year is he?
Um, I believe he's going to be an upperclassman, or he is an upperclassman. Not 100% certain, but regardless, as a college athlete, I do not recommend betting whatsoever. Um, from what I know, they will track kind of the facility you're in, and that's kind of how they get you. Is they'll see where your location is, and then they'll track it through there. From what I know, he was placing these bets through his mom's account too, so that doesn't work out too well for that either. But you know, I feel like pretty soon there's gonna have to be kind of a regulation put in place for situations like these. Like, I feel like sports betting in recent years has definitely been a lot more popular, with more and more states legalizing it. So I'm curious to see what actions they take here and what the punishment's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, even beyond players too, like within the media itself, that gets really tricky because obviously the media is now becoming really tied with a lot of um, betting and just telling people what to bet, what not to bet. But then there's also partnerships between, ESPN or Fox Sports and different teams, and that's where it gets really messy and really foggy. And then you have like, beat reporters covering teams who could be talking about bets, which then kind of is like insider trading, really, because they could be like they could see an injury happen in real time at practice and then immediately place a bet, knowing that that bet's going to hit because some key player just got injured and he's like the only person on the planet that knows it,
Yeah,
which is the same thing as insider stock trading. So like It's
Yeah,
got to be something.
from my memory, I think Alabama baseball, they had a coach that just got fired over allegations of giving
I
out
think about
picks
that.
um, in a game that I didn't think they were going to win, but or I didn't think they thought they were going to win, so he said bet against them, and that wasn't allowed either. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what's going on. In other news, Jim Harbaugh has been suspended for the first 4 games of Michigan season. Kevin, I know you're probably pretty excited to hear the news.
I'm kind of neutral about it. I do kind of agree that it was a bit of like a bullshit thing to suspend him 4 games for. I'm pretty sure it was just for like buying one of the recruits like a cheeseburger or like dinner or something, which like I got that off like an Instagram, but I was hearing it all over the place. So it could be wrong, it could be right. But that's pretty much all I've heard about it was him buying dinner for a recruit. So that's why he got suspended 4 games. Thankfully, at least it's a really easy 4 games for him. So I really don't see him losing any of those 4.
Yeah, the 4 games don't look to be like the most drastic games to be missing, but at the same time, obviously you don't want to lose your head coach, especially at the start of the season, because that's where you can kind of, your team can make a lot of strides early on, and and especially in the game of college football, if they lose 2 games out of these 4, like their playoff hopes are shot. Um,
Even 1 game really puts their playoff hopes in a lot of jeopardy coming being in the Big East.
Big Ten.
Or sorry, not Big Ten East, I meant to say.
I
Really damn big things.
It was interesting to see him get the 4 games too, because I feel like you hear from like a lot of these like bigger SEC programs, you wouldn't they don't they'll get the allegations, but I haven't seen any suspensions really being thrown around there. I think the Big Ten cracks down a little harder. If you remember, you should remember Ohio State when they got a full bowl ban
Yeah.
for
In 2012, I think.
yeah, and they went undefeated that season, right?
Yeah, I know. That was really annoying. I was like, God damn it. Of course, all 1 year we go to undefeated. Even, well, back then, I should say. But
Any other thoughts you'd like to share on the situation?
I mean, I kind of agree with that last statement, really. I know that, was it Tennessee right now? Is like a whole bunch of recruiting allegations against them. And they are kind of just getting a slap on the wrist, which is really frustrating. I think the NCAA really needs to step up in a lot of these situations and create more of a straightforward guideline for punishments and what's allowed, what's not allowed. Because
Yeah,
there's definitely people getting away with stuff, but
from my understanding of the Tennessee situation, I think once they like parted ways with their head coach, that kind of like settled it a little bit. Like I don't think Northwestern's gonna face any like allegations towards their team per se, just because they fired Pat Fitzgerald.
yeah,
Now they got the new guy in, so I doubt they'd get anything like that. Bowl ban, suspensions. I doubt that's coming since their coach already was fired.
yeah. That was, I mean, it probably went into one of the reasons why they ended up firing so quickly is so that they could kind of get rid of it and not get any sort of suspension or anything.
On to our next segment. We're going to be talking about the future of college football, some things to kind of look forward to. Um, uh, the main topics I want to hit are realignment, NIL, the college football playoff expansion, and the new college football video game that is soon to be released next, or that is going to be released next year. But let's get into the hot topic right now, which is realignment. Um, we're seeing a lot of kind of collapse from the Pac-12. The Big 12 has lost a couple members, and the ACC looks like it is on their way down as well.
Yeah, the ACC is just like it's kind of inevitable, I think, because of just the way that their TV deal was structured, and there's no really real way out of it except for just dissolving the conference. So it'll be really interesting to see where some of those teams are going to go, assuming that the ACC does fall. I think Pac-12 might be a little bit more straightforward with where those teams would go, although as straightforward as it gets. Um, but ACC is going to be really interesting, especially around Clemson and Florida State, whether they'll go to the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yeah, I saw a report today saying that like Florida State, I think it was their AD, said that like Clemson and Florida State are kind of like the main draws of the ACC, and that like the ACC is not going to be able to survive without them. Which I think, in the terms of football, it's definitely true. But like in basketball, you still got the North Carolina Duke thing. But we're not going to get off topic with that. So I'm curious to see where those teams go. I'm expecting SEC just
Yeah,
because that's where the money is.
and they're both pretty south. I mean, Clemson's in Georgia. No, Clemson's in one of the Carolinas, I think, right?
Clemson's in South Carolina, yeah.
North Carolina. Okay, yeah. So I mean, they're both um, in the South, so it makes sense that they end up going to the Southeast Conference. So
Yeah. What happens to the rest of the conference, though, is going to be kind of a question mark because you got schools that go all the way up the East Coast, like all the way up to Boston College. They're in the ACC, so it's going to be interesting to see where those teams kind of head out. From the looks of it, it looks like they're trying to make it from Power Five to a more Power Four, Power Three type deal. The SEC and Big Ten are set in stone, but I think the Big 12 just made a huge splash with getting Colorado. Um,
yeah, I think that was kind of like the turning point for me, and like looking at this is definitely going to go to like a Power Three. I feel like, and really the Big 12's like biggest thing, or biggest like move that they made. Like the Colorado obviously is a big splash news wise, but getting the TV deal that they did, I think it was back in around the holidays last year, when they were able to get that solidified TV deal with, I want to say it was Fox and CBS,
yeah,
was huge because they're becoming even more limited than they were before. And that's part of the reason why ACC and especially the Pac 12 are having a really hard time creating a new deal.
yeah, and I think the Big 12 should be expecting more of those West Coast teams probably to kind of trickle over. They went out and got BYU, SMU, UCF, and Houston, who are playing in the conference this year. So it'll be interesting to see how those teams make the jump into a Power Five conference, especially with Oklahoma and Texas still being there, being kind of the two dominant powerhouses that we're looking at this year in that conference. So, but I'm also heard that San Diego State is on their way to the Big 12. So, looks like the Big 12 is kind of doing the right things, getting ahead of it early. Um, and they went and got those four teams from a kind of group of five conferences that have been excelling for a while and have the fan base and the money. So, yeah, it can be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, and they're at 13 right now, I believe. So just by the numbers of it, they're going to need one more to make it even. Um, and then I'm assuming they're probably not even going to stop there. I know Oregon and Washington are kind of being crystal balled, so to say, to the Big Ten.
Yep.
There's a lot of talks between that. I kind of would like to see them go to the Big 12. Uh, I feel like just kind of moving most of the Pac 12 over to the Big 12 would be best because it's honestly kind of a stacked conference right now, and then it at least keeps a lot of the talent more spread out, which would be just good for the game long term.
Yeah, I agree. You got most of those teams kind of on the western side of the United States, so it makes sense for all of them to go there. But I mean, would it be too crazy to ask for some of these Pac-12 teams to go to the Big Ten? It's two completely different styles of football. I
It
feel like
is.
if you look at it, so it'd be interesting to see like how Oregon's offense plays out in the Big Ten. You know, like it's it's gonna be unfortunate that we don't get to see Caleb Williams in the Big Ten, but like the kind of the fast paced offense that the Pac-12 kind of has um, adopted as their style of play is going to be going into the run heavy Big Ten, the defense and the Big Ten. So it's be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Big Ten's kind of changing right now a little bit too. I mean, you've seen Michigan's kind of revamping their offense a little bit. Wisconsin's huge revamp right now. We'll see what Nebraska does. I think they're going to stay pretty defensive heavy with Matt Rule, but Penn State's got a interesting looking offense coming up. It's going to be a lot of changes happening.
Agreed. But yeah, as for the SEC, I expect them to go grab um, kind of the big money draws. So like Florida State, Florida is now going to be a conference rivalry. It's going to be
Yeah,
fun if that is if we see Florida State go to the SEC.
I feel like Florida State and Clemson just feel like SEC teams to me. Like
Yeah,
they just fit in with SEC so well.
yeah. I think if you like ask like a college football fan who like doesn't have that much knowledge what conference Clemson's in, I think they'd probably say SEC just based on it being kind of the top dog and Clemson being one of those top dogs. So
Yeah,
make a lot of sense. Yeah, big thing about the realignment that should be noted is that the SEC and Big Ten have a lot higher revenue distributions, meaning those schools make a lot more money just based off viewership. And as Kevin was talking about earlier, the TV rights, that's a big part of it because Big Ten and SEC are both locked up in their contracts for probably ever.
oh yeah. I
Yeah.
know. I was listening to the Joel Klatt podcast, and he was talking about the TV stuff, and I want to say the highest viewed Big Ten game was obviously OSU Michigan, which was around like 17.5 million. I think I forget which SEC game was the top on them, but they were around like 13 million. But then like Pac-12, their most watched game was like 4.5, which is just a big drop.
Oh, definitely, definitely not at all what you want to see. ESPN is kind of like the big one, and I know the Big Ten just got to deal with them and ABC, and then I think, oh wait, no, am I lying? Big Ten went to CBS, right?
I think so. I know they're moving away from Fox, which is annoying because then we're not going to have Gus Johnson anymore.
Yeah,
I'm really sad about that.
yeah. I think in the Big 12 is going to Fox. Okay, that makes sense. Moving on from realignment, we're gonna go into NIL now. Still kind of fresh in the NIL market, but it has been a wild ride so far. Seeing how some teams use it to their advantage to recruit players, basically giving them the money to come play for them. I know Texas A&M is kind of the base of paying players heavy bags to come play for them.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting to see how every team is kind of taking their own little approach on it. Like some, as you said, like Texas A&M has been really upfront with NIL and getting their recruits money right away and promising money. Personally, I know like Ohio State typically tends to more like of a tradition route. I know that they dabble into NIL a decent amount, but they really focus more on trying to get recruits through just promising great development and being in a good program. And then there's some that are even more towards the traditionalistic side, and some like Texas A&M or the whole scandal with Florida, obviously, um, with just trying to really use money to get recruits. And I feel like both ways have worked out for the program. It kind of really depends on the program, which one's gonna useful, and there's a lot that like are in the middle. So it's interesting right now with not a whole lot of regulations.
Yeah, I think the funniest part about the Jim Harbaugh extension is that like I've heard him talk about NIL and how he doesn't really try to use it to his advantage, and kind of just like the fact that you're getting the opportunity to play at Michigan is kind of enough of a reward on its own. And I know they're not really a team that kind of pushes that too heavy. And then, of course, he's the one that's hit with the 4 game suspension for buying a recruit a cheeseburger. Yeah, you got Jimbo Fisher buying these players' moms' homes. Like,
Literally, ironic.
um,
Yep.
it's going through the roof. You're gonna see like Arch Manning. I feel like is gonna be like the
Yeah.
first like big blockbuster coming in, like because he's coming into like the NIL where it's like kind of fresh. I know that his grandpa Arch Manning, he said that like Archie wasn't allowed to like accept a deal until like he like was playing for Texas. But I feel like once those deals come, we're going to see some record breaking numbers in college football. He's going to be making, for my projections, probably close to 5 mil by the time he's starting.
Yeah, I think once you see him get the starting position, that's when it's really going to ramp up with that Manning last name. Like it's just he's going to be all over the place, especially if he's playing really well too. Like that'll even add to it. Uh,
Just
I
being
feel
Texas too, like that's
oh yeah,
already the
big market, big.
already if not the biggest market, but one of the biggest markets, and with a passionate fan base that is probably going to throw some money at their team.
Oh yeah, just put him on like any product in Texas, and you'll get like $1 million of sale. I could guarantee it.
Guaranteed. Anything else you have to add about NIL?
Um, I mean, I would say I'm I'm on the side of NIL. I do love that we have NIL now. There definitely needs to be a lot of regulations that need to be done, and not even really like the most talented and high end players. I feel like are fine. You know, there's not a whole lot happening there, at least negatively wise. They seem to be guided well and they know what they're doing. But it's a lot of those like lower tier players that are kind of getting taken advantage of by like so and so agents, which is pretty shitty. And then obviously what we saw with Florida and I'm totally blanking on the QB's name, but now he's going to Arizona because he had like a that NIL deal fall with the collective in Florida, which isn't even really technically on the head coach for Florida, because collectives get really tricky. Um, but at the end of the day, like you should be doing what's best for the student. Like promising money you don't have is pretty shitty. Like this is an 18-year-old kid that you're like kind of taking advantage of a little bit there, and he doesn't really know any better.
Yeah, that's one thing like you really hope that doesn't come out is like these players who like would commit to a school for like a certain deal and then have that not work out. I feel like that is when like we might start seeing some action taken in the NIL.
Yeah,
Moving on from that, we got something I'm very excited for: the college football playoff expansion. So they're moving from the 14 format that it is, where you just kind of do like a semifinals, winner of those games playing the championship, and that's the national championship. What we're going to be seeing now is a 12-team format. The top 4 seeds are going to get a bye, and then the higher seeds in those games after they match up will get a home field playoff game, which
that's
I,
going to be really cool.
that's really cool. And like I know like a lot of people probably thinking like, oh, winning a playoff game in front of your home crowd would be awesome. No, imagine winning a playoff game in front of an opposing crowd in college football. Like it's just a screaming fireworks. Second round, or the winner of the first round will go to the second round, and then play one of the top four teams, and then one of the top four teams there will get a home field game, and then
Okay.
it will go down to the semifinals. But the 12 team format is honestly great. I think the fans have been asking for it for a while. Kind of seeing how well the four team worked out. College football in the past couple of years has been kind of on a bit of a comeback, and I think the four-team playoff has really been a big part of it, setting a national championship. But the problem with that is I feel like there's just so many teams that are left out that would be deserving of that fourth playoff spot, and then it kind of comes down to what the committee decides. And if the committee's not in your favor, you can get kind of screwed. And which we have seen some teams. I know, I think the main one everyone argues is like TCU in 2014
Yeah.
had Boykin and QB, and I think that was that's one of the teams that always gets talked about.
Yeah. I like that they had the 4 team for a while. I think it was a nice stepping stone to get to the 12. Like if they went straight from BCS to 12, I don't know if they would have gained the momentum that they did using the 4 team playoff. But I think the 12 is even going to expand the college football viewership because like you're going to see recruiting start to change because now teams are getting more chances. So recruits are going to be going to places since they're going to be getting more chances to play in playoffs rather than the same, 5, 6 teams that are kind of rotating through the playoffs. So they're getting all the, 5-star, top 4-star recruits. So the landscape with, transfer portal as well is really going to change a whole lot. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams coming up right now that are going to be competing at a high level really soon.
Definitely, definitely, and I feel like players are just becoming more and more talented as we speak.
Yeah.
The depth of the game is probably better than it's ever been. You got all stars all over the field always. So it's awesome to see, and it's going to be awesome to see them play some competitive football. Because you get down to the bowl season, and if you're not playing a New Year's Six game typically, or like a big playoff game, you're a top player. You usually sit that out if you're going to the draft. You don't want to get hurt. But now that you're giving these kids something to play for, we're going to be seeing more competitive football, which is exactly what we need.
Yeah, I think even on top of the players getting better, the coaches are getting better too. Like just schemes and styles of play and just being more cohesive and everything. I feel like just the competition between that has gotten so much better than what it used to be, which probably is a little bit of the talent level as well.
I feel like we just seen a natural shift in how the game is played. I feel like you would see a lot of run heavy offenses in years past, but now we're at a game where it's a passing game, and the running back situation in the NFL kind of shows that.
Yeah,
The They're just not a valued position, and now you see quarterbacks getting paid hundreds of millions, and
boatloads of
these
money.
running backs are struggling to get 12 mil a year, and
Yeah.
not getting a long term deal.
I mean, I feel like most running backs at this point kind of fall off by the time they're 30, 32, and not even to their own fault, but just by the time they get to that, their team just moves on to a new running back, and then you just kind of fall off the face of the earth a little bit.
And that number is just shrinking too. I feel like it's gonna be rare to see a 30-year-old running back unless it's one of the genetic freaks like Derrick Henry. um, so I feel like with the game kind of in this natural shift, we're seeing a lot better offense, and the defense has got to catch up. These
Yeah.
corners need to be able to keep up with a guy who can run a 4.2, 4.3. And it's not just your wide receiver one; it's your wide receiver four that can run that pace.
Yeah. Now, in some cases, you really have a specialty guy, a second guy that really is your speed guy, and in addition to your wide receiver one, and you can just kind of use him as a matchup nightmare. depending on what team you're facing and what their defense looks like.
Agreed. Um, Final thing I kind of want to touch in our future of college football segment is the EA Sports NCAA Football 24 coming out next year. Uh, I don't know about you, Kevin, but back when I was 10 years ago, I played that game religiously. That is one of the best sports games ever created,
100%.
and I'm hoping that they can do a good job of not making it like Madden.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I
yeah.
hope they make it way more like it used to be, with just like the style and feel of it all.
Mhm.
And I'm really hoping that they can get all of, like, just the legal and technical things worked out right now, because I know there's a lot of players like holding back on it, and it's kind of getting muddy. But I really hope that they can work that all out, because like 90% of my excitement for moving back home with my parents is because that game is back home. So I get to play I get to play NCAA 13. So
Yeah, the players are getting $500 for their name and likeness in the game, and I think some players aren't happy about that.
I mean,
Um,
if I was a big player, I wouldn't be happy with that either.
yeah, it's. I feel like 500 might be a good base if you're like a backup offensive lineman, maybe. But like, you gotta expect next year, like you're gonna be seeing like Texas, for example. Like Arch Manning might be one of the most used players of the year, and like he probably does deserve more because he's more of a draw for why that game's being sold. But I guess it's not really fair to say if I'm a backup offensive lineman. It's not like I can do much about it, but
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they just kind of, to resolve the issue, they really just have to do like some sort of tiered payment thing. I don't know how Madden does it with NFL players. Do they have? I don't know if you would know, but if they have to like pay the players to use their name, or is that a part of their like NFL contracts that like Madden's just gonna be able to use their name? Or
I don't think so because I know I like last year I know Dan Campbell wasn't the coach of the Lions because he didn't like sign over his rights to do it.
hmm.
I know like Bill Belichick hasn't been in Madden because he won't sign his rights to it. So I don't know if you really paid for that. Maybe if like maybe the cover athlete gets like a percentage of sales.
Yeah, I'm sure the cover athlete gets something.
I don't know. I don't know why they need to get paid for that.
To be
Is it?
fair, it's probably not like much to them. What they're already making, it's probably like
I mean,
pocket change.
you're
But
just getting put in a video game. Like you need to get paid for. Yeah.
this, I'd pay someone else to put me in a video game.
Agreed. We will be. Or we drop $70 on that game, and then we do a road to glory.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, that's all we got for the future of college football. I hope you guys are looking forward to it just as much as I
Be
am.
a really good future.
Game's only getting better. I'm telling you that much right now. And I think this year is going to be a great stepping stone into what is sure to be an amazing year next year with this expansion coming. You're going to see a lot more teams getting a lot more meaningful games.
A lot more craziness happening,
Oh, yeah.
which is kind of the identity of college football, craziness.
Chaos.
Total chaos, pretty
Total
much.